waking up in a hospital bed, weak, broken, only to discover that while you were fighting for your life, the person you trusted most decided your life was over. My wife sold my furniture, emptied my accounts, gave away my dog, and left me a note with $300 telling me to start over somewhere quiet. But instead of breaking, I waited. In the woods. For her and her new lover. If you've ever been betrayed so deeply it left a scar on your soul, you're going to feel this one in your bones. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around, because this is not just a story of betrayal, it's a story of silent, calculated revenge. The smell of disinfectant still clung to my clothes when the nurse wheeled me out of the hospital. My body felt hollow, stitched together by sheer willpower and cheap cafeteria coffee. I'd spent weeks fighting to recover, clinging to one thought that kept me alive, going home. Back to my dog waiting by the door, back to the couch where I used to nap, back to the familiar comfort of my own life. My wife hadn't visited much. She always had excuses, work deadlines, being too drained to drive across town, but I told myself she was coping in her own way. I didn't want to believe anything darker. I convinced myself that once I was home, we'd patch things up. Maybe the hospital stay would even remind her how fragile life was and how much we still had together. I paid the cab driver, climbed the stairs with shaky legs, and slid my key into the lock. That's when the first warning sign hit me, the silence. No scratching at the door. No thump of paws against the wood. My dog always knew when I was home. Always. When I opened the door, the air was empty. Too empty. My apartment didn't look lived in, it looked staged, like a rental property someone had cleaned out. The couch was gone. The bookshelf stripped bare. Even the curtains were missing. The bed frame, where we'd shared 6 years of mornings, had vanished without a trace. I stumbled into the kitchen, searching for some sign this was a mistake. That's when I saw it, a folded piece of paper on the counter. My wife's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. You need to move on. I cleared out the apartment, gave away your dog, and sold the furniture. This money should help you start over somewhere quiet. Don't contact me. Taped to the bottom was $300 in cash. That was it. My marriage. My home. My best friend. Reduced to a note and a handful of bills. I stood there in the hollow echo of my empty apartment, the walls pressing in like strangers. My chest tightened, not just from weakness, but from something sharper, betrayal. I sank to the floor, my back pressed against the cold wall, the note still crumpled in my hand. $300. That's what my wife thought my life was worth. That's what she thought I was worth. I tried to breathe, but every inhale rattled in my chest, shallow and uneven. My hands trembled so violently that the bills slipped from my fingers and scattered across the kitchen tiles like scraps of trash. And that's all they felt like, trash. Images flashed in my head, my dog curling up at my feet, the way his tail thumped when I came home from work, the way his soft muzzle pushed against my hand when I was sick. I could live without furniture, without books, even without the couch, but my dog. She had taken the one soul that would have never abandoned me. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Tears stung my eyes, hot and furious, but they weren't just from grief anymore. They were from rage. Rage that she didn't even have the decency to look me in the eye. Rage that she made choices for me as if I were already dead. Rage that she dared to call this helping me move on. I thought about all the nights I'd defended her when friends whispered she was distant, cold. I thought about how I'd carried the weight of our bills, our problems, our future, while she was quietly building an escape plan. My breaths came sharper now. Not broken, not weak, sharp. Every heartbeat pounded in my temples like a drum, fueling something darker than sorrow. She thought I'd accept this. That I'd take her money, crawl away, and fade into silence. But I wasn't broken. Not yet. I rose unsteadily to my feet, gripping the counter for balance. The apartment was bare, but my mind was alive with a new clarity. If she wanted me gone, fine. I'd disappear from her world. But not before she felt what I felt. Not before she knew what it was like to have everything ripped away. The note didn't tell me where she'd gone, but I didn't need her to. Betrayal has a way of leaving a trail, and I was ready to follow it. At first, I sat in the empty apartment for hours, staring at the shadows stretching across the walls. But when night fell, I dragged myself to my car. My body was still weak from the hospital, but my mind had never been sharper. I started with mutual friends. A few ignored my calls, clearly already aware of the situation and too cowardly to get involved. But one cracked under the weight of guilt. He told me what I already suspected. She wasn't hiding. She was flaunting her new life. Her lover was a wealthy man with a lake house. She'd been seen driving his car, laughing at restaurants, walking my dog as though he had been hers all along. And the detail that cut the deepest. She told people I was too weak, that I couldn't keep up with her anymore. Those words lit a fire in me. Weak. That's how she justified abandoning me when I needed her most. That's how she excused stealing everything I had left. I asked where the lake house was. My friend hesitated, but when I pressed harder, he finally muttered the directions. The moment I hung up, the decision was made. The drive took hours. Every mile was a drumbeat of fury, each turn of the wheels pulling me closer to the truth. The road grew darker, the trees thicker, until finally I reached it, a sprawling house on the water, all glass and angles, glowing warmly against the night. I parked far back, cutting the engine, the silence so loud it rang in my ears. The lake rippled softly in the moonlight. Their car was in the driveway. I slipped into the woods, branches clawing at my jacket, damp soil sinking beneath my shoes. My chest ached, but I forced myself forward, crouching low until I found the perfect spot with a clear view of the house. And there I waited, breathing, watching, letting the rage settle into something colder, sharper. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. It was going to be something far more satisfying. The woods wrapped around me like a shroud, damp leaves clinging to my shoes, the night air pressing cold against my skin. Every sound seemed magnified, the crunch of twigs underfoot, the restless hum of crickets, the slow drip of water from the branches above. I crouched low, my eyes fixed on the glowing lake house. Through the wide glass windows, I could see fragments of their life together. Her silhouette passing across the kitchen, his hand brushing hers, their laughter floating faintly into the night. It wasn't the laughter of two people in love, it was the laughter of thieves celebrating what they'd stolen. Each second stretched like an eternity. My body still ached from weeks in a hospital bed, my muscles weak, my breath shallow. But anger is a strange medicine. It dulled the pain, made me steady. The dog appeared first, padding lazily across the living room. My heart clenched. He stopped, ears twitching, as if he sensed something outside. For a moment, I thought he'd come charging out to me, but then her voice called, and he trotted obediently back to her. My fists curled in the dirt. She had taken even his loyalty. The hours crawled by. My stomach growled, my throat dry, but I refused to move. I wasn't going to storm the house like some reckless intruder. No, I was going to wait. Watch. Find the moment when they were most vulnerable. Finally, around midnight, I heard it. The slam of the front door, muffled voices drifting into the night, the crunch of tires on gravel. Their car pulled out of the driveway, headlights cutting across the trees before disappearing down the winding road. The silence that followed was deafening. This was my opening. My heartbeat quickened, but my hands were steady as I crept from the cover of the woods. Every step toward the house felt heavier, more deliberate. The lake house loomed above me now, glass and steel reflecting the moonlight. I reached the back door and tested the handle. It clicked open. Unlocked. Of course. Why would they bother locking it? In their minds, they were untouchable. Safe. I slipped inside, the cool air wrapping around me, the scent of cedarwood and expensive candles filling my lungs. This was their sanctuary, and I was about to turn it into something else entirely. The house was warm, almost too warm, like it was trying to smother me in comfort that wasn't mine. My shoes sank into a plush rug that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Everything gleamed, polished wood, glass surfaces, chrome fixtures. And everywhere I looked, she was there. Her coat draped carelessly over the back of a chair. Her purse on the counter, spilling lipstick and receipts. Photos framed on the wall, her laughing with him on the dock, her perched on the hood of his car, her in his arms. Not mine. I gritted my teeth so hard my jaw ached. Then I heard it, the soft patter of paws. My chest clenched as my dog came padding into the room. He stopped dead when he saw me, his head tilting, tail twitching uncertainly. For a heartbeat, I was terrified he wouldn't recognize me. But then, slowly, his ears perked. His tail wagged. A low whine escaped his throat before he bounded toward me, pressing his body into my legs, licking my hands as though afraid I might vanish again. I dropped to my knees, burying my face in his fur, choking on the flood of emotion. Relief. Rage. Love. All tangled together. I whispered, "I'm sorry, boy. I'm so damn sorry." But as I pulled back, my eyes caught another photo on the shelf, her holding him, my dog, their smiles wide like they'd built this perfect little life together. And that's when I knew. I couldn't just walk out with my dog. That would never be enough. She had taken everything from me. And now, it was my turn to take everything from her. I rose to my feet, my dog pressed close against my leg like he understood what was happening. My pulse thudded in my ears as I took in the house again, not as a visitor, but as someone studying a battlefield. On the desk in the corner, papers were scattered, property deeds, investment statements, emails printed out. My wife's handwriting leapt out at me in notes scrawled across margins, calculations, reminders, even his banking details. She wasn't just living here. She was digging in, building a future off someone else's wealth the same way she had drained me. I slipped the papers into a neat pile, scanning them carefully. Passwords. Signatures. Dates. Enough evidence to shatter the trust between them if the right eyes saw it. I opened drawers, cabinets, folders, quietly, methodically. Each discovery painted a clearer picture. She wasn't faithful to him either. There were transactions that didn't add up, text messages half-printed, flirty exchanges with yet another name. She wasn't just a thief, she was a parasite. For a moment, my hands shook with the urge to smash everything. To flip the table, shatter the glass, rip her life apart in one violent burst. But then I caught my reflection in the window, tired eyes, hollow cheeks, a man who had already lost too much. No. Destruction would be too easy. Too quick. What I wanted was permanence. I wanted them to turn on each other. To feel the floor fall out from beneath them the way it had for me. So I started planting the seeds, moving files, leaving traces, arranging evidence just so. By the time they came back, this house wouldn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. It would feel like a trap. The headlights swept across the trees before cutting into the driveway. My dog shifted nervously, but I crouched low in the shadows, silent. The front door opened, and their laughter spilled inside, carefree, smug, oblivious. It didn't take long. First came the silence, then the low murmur of voices. A pause. Confusion. Footsteps quick and uneven across the hardwood floor. Then his voice, sharp and angry. "What the hell is this?" Her voice rose higher, desperate, trembling with excuses. "It's not what it looks like, I can explain." But I knew what he was looking at, the papers I had laid out, the emails printed in bold, the numbers that didn't add up. Proof that while she was warming his bed, she was siphoning his money. Proof that she hadn't chosen him for love, she'd chosen him for leverage. His anger erupted like thunder, crashing against her pleas. Glass shattered. A chair scraped. She swore, cried, tried to twist the blame onto me, onto anyone but herself. And then came the words I had waited for. "Get out. Now." Her sobs carried into the night as she stumbled out of the house, the door slamming behind her. The same door she'd once locked me out of in her heart. I slipped deeper into the shadows, my dog pressed against my side, as her figure disappeared into the dark. She had nothing. No home, no man, no plan. And me. I walked away with my dog, the only piece of my life worth saving. For the first time in weeks, my chest felt lighter. Not healed, not whole, but free. She thought she'd buried me. But I was the one who left her in ruins. As I drove away from that lake house, the reflection of the water flashing in my rearview mirror, I realized something. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud. It doesn't have to be fists slamming into walls or plates shattering on the floor. Sometimes, the quietest strike is the one that cuts the deepest. She thought I'd be broken forever. She thought a crumpled note and $300 would erase years of my life, erase loyalty, erase love. But betrayal has a strange way of sharpening the soul. It doesn't just wound, it teaches. I didn't just take my dog back. I took back control, dignity, and the power she thought I'd lost. And in the end, I didn't need to scream or beg for justice. I simply let her own lies unravel, let her greed consume her. Now, when I look at my dog curled up at my feet, I don't think about the emptiness of that hospital bed or the silence of the apartment. I think about survival. About patience. About how sometimes the best revenge isn't burning everything down, it's walking away while they're trapped in the ashes. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to smash that like button. Tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying act of revenge you've ever witnessed or dreamed of? And of course, subscribe for more stories just like this, tales of betrayal, justice, and sweet, sweet payback. Until next time, remember, Sometimes silence is the sharpest weapon of all.